You're watching and listening to Conscious Evolution Media, shifting global consciousness at consciousevolutionmedia.com.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Kids Talk Foundation, www.kidstalk.org. Are you in the entertainment industry? If you answered yes and you want to promote yourself, your passion, and profession, check out Creative Independent Artist magazines at CIAartists.com. Endorsed by Kids Talk Foundation worldwide.
Today's man needs to be whole, more than just providing financial security for their relationships and families. Join us as we explore the social conditioning that has and is systematically disempowering men. By becoming awake and aware, we can reverse that conditioning, especially for the boys. Here are your hosts of the Radical Man Internet TV show, Dr. Grant Crewley, Sensei, and Coach Steve Todd.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to our show. I'm Sensei Grant Crewley with my co-host Steve Todd, the founder of the entire network. And we're very happy to be here with you tonight. Our theme tonight is the role of senseis, gurus, teachers, and mentors in the male world, in a man's world. How are you, Steve?
Good, thanks, Sensei. It's we're moving right along.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
You have no idea what I've been through in the last 3 months. Oh my God, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I must say that's true.
I had so many opportunities to just stop and give it all up.
Mm-hmm. So
and just say, you know, this is just too hard. Why is it so hard? Is it supposed to be this hard, Sensei?
You know, it's a good question. I was listening to a lecture by Eckhart Tolle, one of the best I've ever heard him, and he said literally that life is and the world is meant to be frustrating because liberation will come through the challenge. So let me ask you something. As a man, what is it that makes you so you don't stop? What prevents you from just throwing in the towel?
Well, it's the commitment that I have to my own evolution and to growth, and all the people that I've been in touch with throughout the years, them supporting me, I'm supporting them. It's just it seems like that the only way that I can even entertain the idea of not being part of what I have created is by dying. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem to be possible any other way.
You know, it's an interesting, have you ever read, or for those of you in the audience, if you've ever read the book by the personal diary of Marcus Aurelius, who went at one time as the emperor of Rome. He's in control of the known world at that time. And in one of his entries, he says, he's talking to himself, and he says something to the effect, so what are you going to do? You're going to lay in bed where it's nice and safe and warm, or are you going to get up and do your job? So I have a question for Steve, because Steve, a lot of us guys, we're born, we grow up in the city where we're raised, and we just go through the motions. We get our job, we end up with kids, you work 9 to 5. But Steve did a lot of different things, including leaving a communist country, coming to America and building a very big and important place, work, job, influences. So here's the trick, Steve. Who in your life was key in giving you the kind of motivation you just talked about, where literally you'd have to die to not be part of this? who or what was the influences that mentored you into that kind of guts?
Wow, that's an interesting question. There has been, I would say, numerous people, most of them men, some of them women. I mean, it's not like that I love my mother, but I dislike her. If that makes sense.
It does.
But she was a very strong woman, and I learned to respect. Initially, of course, I didn't, but I learned to respect her strength, and the fact that she wasn't afraid of slapping me upside the head, even at 18. So at that time, I didn't feel that way, but now I get it, and so there's been numerous people in my life that I looked up to as a role model, or I had several coaches, several mentors, several gurus. So I've been through that circle, and I guess I'm at a place right now where I'm really no longer looking to an outside person right now. It could change, but I'm not looking to an outside person to coach me or mentor me. I'm looking within.
Yeah, but and that's that will always be correct. But there's a process, and for the audience, tell us about. I want you to pick, say, one or two key men that had a big influence on your strength as a man, your resolve to take life and make your own way. And then what age roughly were you at the time that you had their influence?
Yeah, I can certainly bring up a few. I didn't truly. I can only remember one from my childhood, and that was my math teacher. I hated him. And he always called on me, and I could tell. I went through terror. I don't know if you remember this, but I certainly do to this day. They had a book. Every teacher had a book when they came into the class, and they put it on the table, and as soon as the class started, they started to go through the book, and everybody's name was in there, and I could tell exactly where I was in the book. And I could tell when my name was in front of him, and I knew he was going to call on me. I knew it. And I hated him for that, and then later on in life, I understood, and I actually loved him for it.
Why?
Because he put me through the discomfort. He forced me and pushed me to be outside of my comfort zone, because my comfort zone was sitting in the chair in the class and not learning a damn thing, just bullshitting with other kids. And he, for whatever reason, his tough love was actually, and at the time I didn't get it, but he actually liked me. And the way he certainly didn't show it, or at least I didn't receive it as love. I received it as why is he picking on me? Why is he bothering me? Why doesn't he just leave me alone? Like, he doesn't pick on other kids. Why is it me? Leave me alone.
So then, go to your next guy. Let's see if there's any similarities.
So the next guy, I would pick, the one that really comes to my mind is, we got to jump. Now we were at probably like 12, between 12 and 14, and now we jumped to like 20 something when I first was invited to be part of a company as a vice president. I was made a part owner. And the guy that ran the company, the president, I have noticed this quality, and I certainly looked up to it, that he would answer every phone call that he ever got. I got to know him, and I got to know a lot of times our situation in business. And I knew there were times we didn't have the money to pay the bills, and he still answered the phone. And I went through the whole process of, getting a bank loan for the company, and I respected that he took no for an answer. He would do whatever it took to get whatever it is that we decided to go after. And he was unstoppable. And I was at an awe, how is this possible that he doesn't care? I mean, I knew that he knew that the phone was ringing and it was a bill collector. He answered it anyway and worked it out.
So what would you say he's modeling? What is the quality or virtue that he was modeling as a man?
Well, for me, he was modeling that he did not give in to any fear. Like it didn't matter what was coming at him, he just faced it right up front. It was almost like a tennis player when you keep serving and keep putting the ball back. All he was focusing on is, here's the ball, I'm going to get it back. I'm going to get it back. And that's how he was in life. It's like, doesn't matter, who came in, who called, what meeting we were in. He just handled whatever there was to be handled.
So, did you find yourself trying to emulate those qualities in yourself?
Well, I certainly learned a lot from these people, but not until I got older did I get why these qualities were important and why I noticed them. Because I went through my own growth and own challenges, and I can say that in the past I had no problem when I was growing up or when I was a youngster in my 20s or 30s, hiding from problems. I would instead of handling it like he did, I would just go, oh well, let's not answer that phone call because I know what it is. I don't want to deal with that right now.
But isn't it interesting now, how many years later is it now, roughly, that you are recounting this man, the stoic bravery he had in facing life and taking things on in a straightforward, responsible manner? How many years has gone by and you're recalling this guy to us now?
I would say 30
years. For those of you listening now, start to really reflect on that in your own life. If you go back to, say, public school, think about who the men were, the male teachers, who you really looked up to or respected, and then jump up into your 20s and think if there was a man or men who had some kind of an influence. I studied knife combat under a great American warrior, Michael Robert Pick. He was highly decorated. I think he was one of the most highly decorated Marine snipers in Vietnam. And he had a saying that he taught us. He said, "Iron sharpens iron, man sharpens man." not women sharpen men. Women can do all kinds of wonderful things, but it's a man that sharpens a man. And so here's Steve, all these years later, when I ask him a question like that, he doesn't have any problem in recounting these significant men. So isn't that a wonderful thing? You know, I'm a sensei. You know what a sensei, the word sensei just means, sen means that I've gone ahead. And a mentor or a coach is the same thing. It's just another word, which means somebody who's gone ahead, who's forged the path, gone through X number of trials and so forth, and then they're able to, from their example and their guts and courage, we come in behind them. And I'm a doctor, and I'm working over here now at Brad Shapiro's clinic. And over here there's this gentleman that comes in. There's a lot of great people, but this one man in particular named Dwayne, he's this great big older guy. He's up in his 60s, and he was a professional soldier with Force Recon in the United States military for like 20 years. The wonderful thing about this guy is when he comes in, I'm 56, he's about a decade older than me, but in terms of his experience as a man, he's got so much to share with me from a man-to-man heart that when he comes in, it's almost like drinking wine for me. It's just a kind of nourishment that a man can give another man, and it's generally from an older man to the younger. And I couldn't put a price on it, even if he's just talking about going out on the weekend because he went out hunting. There's a quality to that. Do you agree with me, Steve? When you're with some certain men, do you find a kind of unspoken nourishment? It's not something you can really put your finger on, but it inspires and enlivens you and makes you want to be more.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
Yeah. Even at this stage in your life where it's an inner reflection, you're not looking for like another teacher or mentor, like you say, because you are in fact you have in fact graduated up to being the mentor yourself. But still, if you're in the presence of some really fully initiated men, there's a kind of aliveness, and there's a sort of an unspoken non-physical transference between the two. It's a kind of nutrient almost when men get together.
Yeah, and it's very few in between as well.
Yes. So where in your life, let's take you for example at your life now. Okay, at your stage of development now, and with all the things you've been through, you got any examples of when you felt that from being in the company of other men, whether it's one man or several? Anything that an event, a time, a dinner, anything at all? Or it may be younger guys where you felt that you were the primary attractor field for a group of younger men, or even a boy, a single younger guy.
Well, I mean, there has been a number of people. You know, I used to be part of an educational company where I was hanging out there for like 20 years, and you know, there were lots of men there. Actually, the leadership or the organization, most of them are men, but there are some women that were able to become part of the leadership. But it's very difficult to. It's very hard to get there. And I had aspirations at the beginning when I got into that organization to be one of those leaders, and They were smiling at me. And then later on, as I got into it, I understood why they were smiling. It takes years and years and years of practice and doing what they teach for you to be able to graduate to that senior level. So, you know, there's we have some naive ideas. You know, when we get excited, you know, or when I get excited or I want to do something, I sometimes forget that these things, you know, anything that has to do with quality and anything that has to do with something that we want to dedicate our lives to takes work, years of work, and people really, a lot of people I don't think appreciate that or like that. People want everything like right now. No, you can't become a master at anything right now. You you have to go through the process of what it takes to become it, and we don't get to decide when that is. We get to dedicate ourselves to the cause or whatever it is that you want to do, and that mastery decides when we're ready. That's how I experience it. It's like I can want it, and I can be as impatient as I want to be. I can want it, you know, tomorrow. It doesn't matter until I'm ready, and until that certain mastery doesn't feel that I'm ready, I won't attain it.
So, trailering in exactly along that line of thought, pardon me. If any of you in the audience, if you've ever taken the time to read William Tiller, or if you haven't, you should. He's one of the most brilliant scientists in the world today. And the interesting thing is, in one of his books, he describes the transference of energy and like nonverbal communication that occurs between a master and his student, or at a lesser level, like a coach and and whoever he's coaching. Reason I say a lesser level, generally a master, when you say master or sensei, those are like lifelong. They may be 2, 3, 5, 6 decades relationship long. Usually coaches are maybe anywhere from a few hours to a few weeks to a few months, might be a couple of years. But in any case, it is a living transference of wisdom and experience from one man to the other. And in the case of, say, a teenager with an older man, let's say we put a teenager with Steve. Steve is an older man, experienced, and all these different things. They are qualitatively in Steve, and they make up Steve. So a 16-year-old boy comes up and wants to learn from Steve, and not just what the boy will get is when he actually applies or apprentices under him is not just up here in the frontal lobe, is not information and data, but the mature adult body of Steve himself as a man influences, as long as the boy is in proximity to him long enough, often enough, there's a transference. Now, before the Industrial Revolution, of course, boys spent up to 5, 6 to 8 hours a day with their dads, and also with their grandpas and grandfathers and their uncles and so forth, working. Nowadays, the average boy sees his father for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. of quality actual boy to dad time a day. So there's no time for that kind of transference. And what I would like to do is hear what Steve has to say, or if you've ever thought about or taught along those lines, the kind of transference that occurs, it's even unspoken, when we're together as men. Because, you know, the old Druids, they understood the law of similars. And the law of similars, because of the law of similars, when they taught, men always gathered with men only, and the ladies gathered with ladies only, because in the spiritual world, the energetic world, like attracts like. That's why they people know the law of attraction. It's not the same as opposites attract. When in the spiritual world, like attracts like. Vibration, it's a vibrational thing. So I want to hear what Steve has to say on that.
Okay.
I'm going deep today, pal.
I'm trying to get in touch with what it is that you're looking for. You know, I coached literally thousands of people in my lifetime, but I'm not sure that I did it in the sense that you're asking. Like, I was never like a youth teacher or youth. You know, I didn't join any organizations where I took the boys out to camping, and or didn't join any churches doing that kind of stuff. So I don't really have that experience that you're referring to. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, that's a good point. All of a sudden I tied into what you're saying. What I'm referring to is, and all of a sudden I got a feeling when, and many times now as coaches, we're doing it sort of like we're doing this TV show. And there's a certain amount of transference, but without actual physical proximity. When there's I guess what I'm saying, when there is a physical proximity to the teacher or coach, that's when this transfer occurs. It comes from actual interaction with and spending time with, eating with, studying with, being shown physically. So I now I understand.
I can remember, you know, I did some specific coaching for about a year or two in the real estate industry, and I actually, you know, I scheduled breakfast meetings with realtors. A lot of them were men, some women, and I basically coached them through, you know, how to be successful in real estate. But it wasn't really about the business of real estate. It was about who do you have to be as a human being to be successful in the real estate business. So I wasn't teaching them the specifics about how to be a realtor. I was teaching them about who do you have to be. Like, I had a specific thing that I called the practice, and it was about integrity. What does integrity has to do with?
40 years there. So I made a coaching program for people, for the general public, not just men, and it's called Applied Samurai Wisdom, and I hope you'll check it out. And that is where what I do is I take over 2,000 years of proven behavioral science. I marry that because I'm a doctor and I'm trained in the scientific method as well. And I marry all of that and I substantiate it with the new science. And it's a beautiful blend, and it's for helping transform lives. So what Steve is describing, that, and I'm going through this. I'm 56 now. I'm now actively into my 41st year of training, and what he's describing is the ego. All of us, our ego has all these reasons why we can't do this, why we didn't do that, why we let down such and such, and why we feel like this, and all these different things, right? But you see, the trick is, when it comes time to actually, and see, in America, we never contemplate death. The entire culture is built to pretend as if death is never going to happen. So people live their lives like that, right? And they got all these reasons, and then one day they go, hey, they're going to have to die. We all have to die. The trick is, when we have to die, all of the reasons don't work anymore. They don't work. And there comes a time in the dying process where no matter how sharp or clever that person was throughout their life, making their very, very sophisticated reasons, excuses, all the different things that we do, they won't work anymore.
Would you say the ego lays down the sword?
Well, it's forced to.
It says, it basically says, you know, it's there's no need to defend this anymore.
And not only no need, if they're resistant, see, if they've always lived in constant egoic grasping and so forth, and all the excuses, the death will force them to lay down their sword, because they'll have to surrender not only their ego, but their life, all of their possessions, everyone they've ever known. And the way we die the way we live. So if we live like Steve's mentor, that he says, even if it's a collection agency, the man answers the phone. He faced it, he works it out, and he handles it with integrity. That kind of man will die that way. This is why it's important to find powerful male mentors, not little girls. Nice, lovely to take them out, wine and dine them, enjoy them, listen. They're very wise, but they're not men. And they never will be. And you're not a girl, so you're never going to be. So when you find men that have gone ahead, that show virtue and live with virtue, they have guts, doesn't mean that they're not scared. Even Mr. Pick, the most fiercest human being I know on the planet Earth, he told me that when he's in combat, he was very scared. He said, this is Pick talking. It's a proven man 1 billion times. Like, you watch those movies, Gladiator, he is Gladiator. Well, he told me it isn't that you're not afraid, it's what you do with the fear. And this is a initiated man teaching me, right? A younger martial artist that wants to know that I have what it takes to be a real man in an adverse scenario. But the point is, you find these people and you start to emulate and absorb their kind of virtue, strength, and so forth. And then we take these things, these virtues, from various, you might have 20, 30 different people that all have various specific virtues that you admire. And you try to acquire those, and you try to live that way, because someday dying is the acid test, and there's no escape. If you live by deceit and you're like a hustler, you cannot hustle death. Hustle death.
So Sensei, this just reminded me, just to be really clear about, because at the time I was doing this integrity coaching practice, I wasn't putting it into these words, but now, many years, more than a decade later,
Yeah.
I get it. I got really what I was doing. So all I was doing is working with people and paying attention to. I was paying attention to, and I wanted them to pay attention to what comes out of their mouth and what they actually do. Is it the same? And if it isn't, why it isn't the same, and what do you have to do? What do you have to put in so that it is? It's very simple. It's like, it doesn't take a PhD to figure this out, right? So just pay attention to what is it that you say all day long, how many promises you make, not just to other people, but to yourself. And if you look at the end of the day, tell me what happened. How many of those promises did you keep and how many you didn't? And if you didn't keep them, why?
So, yes. So you're teaching them congruency within themselves. And now I really want you to try to tie that into of like a father or mentor's role. Why is that important for us as men? It's important for ladies too,
because that's where creation lives. When we get to say and manifest what we say based on what we do, if those two things are the same, we become very powerful human beings. That's why it's important. And when it isn't the same, and there's a lot of discrepancy between what we say and what we do, then we become, what you said, hustlers. We become liars. We create dramas. We have to lie to cover up all the crap that we did. That's why it's important. And then when you focus on what we say and what you do and the difference between the two, guess what? It brings up incredible amount of feelings. And that's where I was going with my practice, to see if I can help these people to process these feelings. Because the reason why what they say and what they do isn't matching, because there's certain feelings that they don't want to deal with.
Many of which are subconscious.
Yes. By the way, talking about feelings, I promised you, I think on the last show, that I'm going to kind of look inward and take a look at why did I get diabetes. Okay?
Oh, okay.
And I have an answer for you.
Okay.
Okay, so and I was looking within. I was asking my body, what the heck is this about? And what I came up with is that diabetes is related to blood and sugar. It's related to the sweetness of life. And if I look at my life, I was an angry person from the time I could identify what anger is and be it, until just a little bit less than 10 years ago. I was always angry about something, someone, and this is the result of being angry for more than 40 years in my life.
Yeah.
I was angry at the communists. I was angry at my mother. I was angry at my father. I was angry at all the people that I was hanging around with that weren't willing to do a damn thing about communism. I came out to this country. I was mesmerized, and then I got hooked on money, power, and control. And then there's lots of anger games to play within money, control, and power. And I got really good at it, including I was part of consulting practices where, international consulting practices where more than 100,000 people worked for these companies,
Wow.
and it was all based on power, control, and money.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot about that, and I paid dearly. I paid my dues, and this is why I feel that we have the power to make ourselves ill, and we have the power to make ourselves well.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
We're doing it to ourselves. We're not victims of this stuff. We're doing it.
Yeah. Same with my cancer. Yeah. We're basically identical, and it was all anger and resentment, just manifested a little bit different.
Different.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know.
Yeah, so I'm going like, okay, so sweet, isn't it nice? And now I'm going like, okay, so now I'm going to go for the sweetness of life. Because
too much.
Right now it tastes, and it's kind of funny because anger tasted really good too. You know what? I couldn't get enough of it.
It's addictive. It's addictive.
Yeah. And now I'm going like, well, let's go for sweetness and see where that takes me.
Just remember, always remember with sugar, cancer, the only thing cancer eats is sugar. No sugar.
Yeah, I know. And
no
I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it that now I'm going to become a chocoholic.
No, I know.
You know what I meant by sweetness of life, you know.
Yeah.
Just enjoy, every moment. To me, that's the sweetness of life.
Yes, it is. Literally, that's exactly right. And you know, guys, as you're listening to this show, the focus, so many of the things that Steve and I are going to bring up, and with other guests and so forth, they apply, of course, to men and women, because we're all human beings. But there is, and I want you to always look for and cultivate the unique tack on all of these things as a male. That's why we do this show. That's why I wanted to do this show. As a man, as a boy, as an either an old man, a young man, but you're a male, and the male has a unique, different place. You know, Steve was talking about the congruency between our actions and our words and our thoughts, and why it was important. Always remember that primordially, a man's energy, archetypal energy, is like this. It's the sun's energy. It means that we penetrate life and we fuel life, and we are the initiator and the catalyst. Then life comes out of the woman, or life comes out of the earth. But life cannot come out of the earth or the woman without the sun or without the man. That's our principle. So when he's teaching, or any man that's a good teacher teaches and shows and lives that kind of congruency and clarity, then the society, your family, your friends, your business, what you create, what you take part in, it all goes well. That's why the government, when you look at our government, and you can read about things along these lines, Robert Bly is an excellent source. One of the reasons why things are the way they are is because they have not shown for years and years, they don't show integrity. They haven't shown virtue. So when the so-called leaders of the country don't show that, then it cascades down, and the young boys and the men growing up, they don't trust that image anymore. Used to be, it was like a king the leader was like a king, and then he represented this enormous virtue. And then the father, by reference, a dad was sort of like the king of his family. But nowadays, it's been a cascade. All of that has almost disintegrated. So this is a rallying point to get you, instead of listening to women and reading about follow and look for other men, learn from each other, gather together, nurture each other, and even if it's literally just getting together and having a couple of beers and being in men's company, as long as it's not a gathering of the village idiots, doing it, there's always a benefit there. There is a benefit. It might take you years to ever realize that, but there's a benefit. So that's why I made Applied Samurai Wisdom. That's why Steve when we spoke, we decided to do this show, because this kind of thing is very important. It's extremely important. And the world needs you now, needs your voice, needs your experience, needs your guts, and it needs your clarity. And sometimes I'm looking at the time. Sometime reflect on the idea that you're not going to be here forever. Think about let's say you were going to die tomorrow. No one knows when you're going to die. So what kind of life have you lived up till now? This is what I'm doing a lot. I had a realization the other day when I was acting like an idiot, worrying about a money issue. But in the grand scheme of things, all I was doing was building a real bad line of cause and effect called karma. Nothing escapes the law of cause and effect. Ask Steve, what is when you think of karma, Steve? Relay your thoughts or a story, a personal something that has dawned on you regarding the law of cause and effect in karma. As a man, maybe as a dad, as a coach, what sticks out in your mind?
It's funny that you asked that, because I've been certainly going through that lately, and so here's what I have to say about that. So that more than 10 years ago, I was a heavy-duty gambler. I gambled away more than $500,000. Sensei.
Wow.
And some of it which was mine, some of it which was other people's money.
Wow.
Okay, so I let friends down. I let people that trusted me down, because my addiction was more important than anything, including my family. I mean, I let down my ex-wife, my kids. Everything was more important. Gambling was number one.
Yeah.
and it's kind of funny, because the reason I think that your question is very timely is because I've been asking myself the question, because there's some really interesting things that have been happening lately, and I've been wondering what the heck is going on. And now that you just asking me this question, this is part of the karma, and what I'm going through in my business. It's like since December of last year, my business was coming apart in front of my eyes. And the way it showed up is that vendors and important partners in my business started to go out of business. So give you an example. Our main studio used to be Stickum for more than 4 years. They were the #1 internet television site with more than 9 million members. You wouldn't think that anything would happen to these people, right? So we had unlimited storage capacity with this company for all of our shows until December. I've got an email that they no longer providing unlimited storage. So we got to take more than 800 of our shows and get them off their servers. And they gave us only a couple of weeks to do it. Guess what I was doing for 2 weeks?
Wow.
Downloading content. And I thought, okay, so this might have something to do with the fact that they're going to go start charging for storage. And a few more weeks goes by in the new year, and I get notification that they're closing their doors.
Wow.
They are gone. They are history. So,
Wow.
so I had to scramble around. So we went to our number 2 studio that we also used to be, always in simultaneously, and set things up there to have that to become our primary studio. And just a few weeks later, I get notification that they also going out of business and they merging with another company.
Wow.
In the meantime, the project management system that we use, which you're familiar with, Many Moons, also was going out of business and sold to do.com. Now, all of these things were hitting me all at the same time, and in the middle of it all, my good friend and somebody that I was teaching to be in this business for 6 months decided that there was doesn't matter, he can remain nameless. I put in hundreds of hours to coach him and teach him for the business, and in December of last year he decided to go back to Florida. So when you look at all these events, and then I found out that I had diabetes in the middle of all of this. You're going like, so wait a minute. Okay, so everywhere I turn, it's like it says stop, major interruption, dude, major interruption. And I'm going like, okay, so how much of this, and I'm going to use your words, a man can take?
Yeah. Wow.
Like breakdown after breakdown after breakdown. And the place I didn't go to, which is, because I used to do that, what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. This is just stuff that's happening, and I either deal with it or I don't. I let it deal with me. Then, last couple of weeks, we developed an audio noise problem on our server, on our broadcasting server. So one thing got another. Did I have, within all this description that I just gave you, did I have plenty of reasons to just throw in the towel?
Oh yes, but I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad you didn't. It'll be
say,
some kind of a test.
The hell with it all. It's just worth it anymore. So, yeah, go ahead.
You do important work. This, as far as I'm concerned, since I met you, I just have a real tremendous gratitude to you for the opportunity, and I just really respect the show, your motivation, and everything you do. But I would bet that I've had things similar to that myself. And the karma, the law of cause and effect, it'll come back. And I think you just got hit in the face, and it'll be like a number of waves, and then it'll be gone. You'll
it felt like that all these partners, all these people that I've been doing business with, are letting me down, which is no different than what I was doing to people than I was letting them down. It's karmic, and I I got to work through this, or I don't.
Yeah, there are different ways too. Like, I do Tibetan Buddhism, tantric Tibetan Buddhism, as well as sword. And there are some mantras that my teacher taught me, Kaya Amen. I'm working to get him in as one of our guests after April. He's a remarkable man that help to energetically, as long as it's done with a sincere heart, help clean karma. There are umpteen different things that can help to clear karma. But overall, the number one important thing is the fact you didn't stop. And that is one way to go through clearing it as it comes up, and nothing stops you. And then by you recognizing any of this, that alone, I believe, helps to heal it all.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're being featured on Blog TV towards the end of the show here, but
oh, awesome.
and here's what's really cool. We've got this guest coming up. I think he's booked for next week. His name is Ten Rose, and he is an author. He wrote the book Fearless Puppy. And what's really cool, what you're going to like about this man is he was a hippie, and he traveled the entire world for 30 years.
Wow. That's cool.
And he picked where he is now. He's got taken in by some spiritual organizations, some gurus, and just because they liked him and they wanted to help him, they didn't want him to sleep out on the street. So he has a very interesting background in Buddhism, and just as a byproduct of these organizations letting him in, he learned an enormous amount of wisdom, and just his experience of willing to be completely free and wander the world for 30 years is priceless.
Yeah. I can't wait to listen to him. That's awesome.
Yeah. So he is absolutely amazing, very pragmatic, very simple, and I think all of our viewers and you as well will enjoy his experience.
Oh yeah.
So that's what we got we got coming up. So he's and he's now dedicated his life to raise money for these organizations that helped him.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm looking very forward to that. Very good. I think this was a really good show. And as we're parting, if you're still listening to this, remember, if you watch television, don't watch anything that humiliates men or makes them out to look like fools. Watch and support things that honor men, which means you're honoring yourself. And take nourishment and advice from each other, and learn and look for great men and aspire to be great yourself. And so I'm Dr. Grant Crewley. I'm a sensei, and this is Mr. Steve Toth. And from the two of us, I want to say on our behalf that this was a great show. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week with our special guest. Thank you,
Steve. You, Sensei. Yeah, see you guys next week, same time, same place.
Yep.
Actually, we'll be in a different studio.